I'm here to talk to you about those advanced directives that you've been hearing about. And advanced directives, as an attorney, advanced directives is just part of the story that we try to tell people when they come in to see us about getting their own, what we call as an umbrella, estate planning done. What's estate planning? Well, that means I need to get my powers of attorney done, medical powers of attorney, financial powers of attorney, and then also I need to get my will done. And some people have a trust, but we're talking about today, for the most part, we're talking about advanced directives as it pertains to powers of attorney. Anybody know how long a power of attorney lasts for, or an advanced directive? Well, the answer to that is until you would pass. And so, sometimes people come in and say, geez, my mom died, I'm her power of attorney. It's like, okay, well, you were her power of attorney, but now that's ended. And then on the flip side, I'll have people come in and say, mom's in the hospital, I'm her executor. It's like, the executor is for a will, and that's upon somebody's demise. And so we don't really, those terminology concepts are something that's, I think, important to think about. Your packet is substantial, so we apologize for that. It's sort of the great Iowa paper chase here, so we have a lot in there. I'm actually kind of a believer in having documents like that, because you can, if you're like me, you're here and you can process a little of it, but you can go home and process a little bit more when you have a handout. And part of the reason for the Department of Public Health to do this is to start a conversation. And if I had a show of hands, I don't need that. But if I did have a show of hands, somebody might say I have my powers of attorney already done. So yeah, you're talking to me and I kind of know that already. But I would question, one, if you have those done, how old are they? I would ask you to, are the same people that you want to have make decisions for you the same people that you have named? I would ask you, have you told your, what we call agent, the person making your decision? A lot of times people call them, that's my power of attorney. Well, the power of attorney is the form. Agent is the person making the decision. But anyway, I don't want to lose you already. But your agent, have you told your agent what your wishes are? Kind of what Ross was talking about. Have you mentioned that already? Have you said what you want? Because in Iowa, you can have your wishes in writing on a piece of paper, but those are not always going to be found. It's not always going to be honored necessarily. But if you tell somebody what your wishes are, your hope and prayer is that they're going to honor those. And so you would go through and say, upon my disability, this is the thing that I would want to have done. And we could look at the conversation project document, and that might go through a lot of different details and things to help you flush that out. As an attorney, when you come in, we don't say, well, what happens if this, and what happens if you were, this condition or that condition. We just say upon your disability. And so we always, when somebody comes in and says, I need to get some estate planning done, they say, I want to get my power of attorney done. I say, do you have your will done? They come and say, I want my will done. I say, do you have your powers of attorney done? Those sort of mesh together as one. And when you come and do that, then the three documents that we usually tell people are a financial power of attorney, a medical power of attorney, and a will. And so if you don't have those today, you should have those. But you might look at it and say, well, you just said medical power of attorney, you didn't say advanced directive. An advanced directive is another name for a power of attorney, medical. And what we do is, for the most part in the state of Iowa, at least what I do, is I combine together in your advance directive medical, a living will and a power of attorney for health care, both in one form. So the top part of the form is going to say, if something happens to me, I don't want to be kept alive by artificial means. If within a reasonable degree of medical certainty, I'm not going to survive without artificial means. And that's your living will. Now, your handout talks about a living will. It talks about a living will as being a letter that you write to your doctors. That could be that. We've sort of compressed it in our form in the state, or in my form that I use. And so in my form that I use, it talks about, which you have, but you don't have to necessarily take it out, but it's the declaration relating to life-sustaining procedures and durable power of attorney for healthcare decision. Say that a lot. That's a mouthful. I like to just call it the living will and medical power of attorney. So part 1 says, should I have an incurable or irreversible condition that will result either in death within a within a relatively short period of time, or a state of permanent unconsciousness from which to a reasonable degree of medical certainty there can be no recovery, it's my desire that my life not be prolonged by the administration of life-sustaining procedures. And then if I'm unable to participate in my healthcare decisions, I direct my attending physician to withhold or withdraw life-sustaining procedures that merely prolong the dying process and are not necessary for my comfort or pain, not necessary to my comfort or freedom from pain. So 99.9% of the people that come in say, just go ahead and leave that in. And by the way, when you have a form like this, you have people look at it before they sign it, believe it or not. And so you prepare it and then you send it to them and you say, look at this and tell me what you think. And I've had nobody recently call me and say, geez, take that part out about wanting to be kept alive if it's just prolonging the dying process. Most people want that, okay? That's your advance directive as it pertains to living will. Now, in advance, you're saying it before something happens. Directive, I'm telling you what I want. And then the power of attorney for healthcare decisions goes through and just says that I give my agent, in this case very creatively Jane Doe, I give my agent the ability to serve as my agent to make healthcare decisions for me, and it exists only when I'm unable in the judgment of my attending physician to make those healthcare decisions. And we call this an agent or an attorney in fact. The attorney in fact must act consistently with my desires as stated in this document or otherwise made known. So that means you could tell your agent what you want if something happens to you. Then it goes through to say that it gives my agent the power to give permission for life-sustaining procedures, or to withhold life. They can make that decision because you've named them. Now, who do you name? Well, could you name your spouse if you have one? Could you name your kids? Well, I don't know which kid to name. You can name more than one, and on my form I showed you that. You can name more than one of your kids. So in my case, I have my spouse first for medical decisions, and if not, my kids, any of them. And it's not a committee decision. It's whoever's available to make the decision. And I might change that. I can always revoke this form by just doing a new one. But right now, as it stands today, you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you don't have anything. So at least I have a plan. And my plan is that. And I might change that over time. Now the form goes on to say that not only does my agent have the ability to make healthcare decisions for me if I can't, or withdraw consent, they have the real ability to look at my medical records. Now, if you have a power of attorney medical, you better look at that. Does it give was it before or after HIPAA? And if it was after HIPAA, does your power of attorney, medical, living will give your agent the ability to look at your medical records? Because I can't make a decision about you if I don't know what your medical history is, right? Are you allergic to penicillin? And they always seem to ask me that. I don't know why. But anyway, what are the things about you I don't know? Well, if I'm making the decision, I need to know. So that has to be in the form. Now, ours goes on to then talk about a release of information, so that if I have my attorney, in fact, go in, and we actually go a little bit further, physician, healthcare professional, dentist, health plan, et cetera, they can get in there and get your records, get information, talk to a medical information bureau, but basically an insurance company, about things if they need to. So this is pretty broad. We're getting pretty broad authorization to our people that we want to be able to act for us. And then HIPAA gives a specific provision. So HIPAA goes and talks about protected healthcare information. And in our form, we make it abundantly clear that this is allowing people under HIPAA to get into your to help you do whatever that they need to be able to do. Now, the next part is disposition of remains. Who has the ability, if I would pass, and this is the only part of the medical power of attorney, living will, that we do that is involving something after your demise. So in Iowa, you can say that I want to be like my dad, I want to be buried in a pine box with a fishing pole, but if I am his power of attorney and I don't have to honor that, but I don't have to honor what somebody's specific wishes on a piece of paper are, but I'm probably going to do it because that's what he said he wanted. So the issue is you need to be naming somebody as your power of attorney medical that you believe is going to honor your wishes. You can have your wishes in pieces of paper, which is good, but you need to get that to somebody who's going to be making that decision for you, and the feeling that, hey, they're going to actually honor it if something happens to me. Because I've had it before where dad dies and there's 5 siblings and 2 people think he's going to be buried over here and 3 people think he's going to be buried over there, or somebody said dad always wanted to be cremated. No, he said he wanted to be buried. What do you do? And why as a society do we feel like it's okay to wait? I just had somebody in my office yesterday, and I said to her, she's quite elderly, and I said, well, what's your plan if something, if you would pass away? And she goes, they'll figure it out. I mean, I'm not going to say anything to that, but to her, but I did push her a little bit and say, well, we need to get to some decisions and make some decisions. And then this document has to be notarized. It could be witnessed. I recommend a notary, but sometimes you can't. I get that. But usually your bank, your law office will do that. If somebody ever needs something notarized, just bring it up to my office at the Brick and Tile. We'll do that. That's not a problem. So this form that I gave you gives one version of what it might look like to have a power of attorney, but this is one that we would use. Now, why did I give that to you? I wanted you to be able to see what a form looks like that might come from a law office, and I wanted you to have the most advanced document that we have, and that's this one. Okay. Now, however, you might say to yourself, yeah, but I don't have right now, I just want to make it as simple as possible. I want to have that done. In your packet, so if you want to use a law office, we'd be able to assist you with something like this. If you want to do your own, the Cerro Gordo County Department of Public Health has prepared a document for you. And that's your Iowa Advanced Directive form with blanks. Okay, and very nice instructions to go with that. Now, you go through there and you say, durable power of attorney for health care, and then the backside says, second page, final disposition declaration. I designate this person as my designee. Kind of sounds like a lot like the one I was just talking about that we do, but they've given you a form that could be able to do the same thing. Their form on page 3 says optional instructions. Okay, so you could write those down. Now, mine had the living will first on page 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess it says 4 right at the top, right here. Page 4, living will. If I should have an incurable or irreversible condition that will result either in death within a relatively short period of time, sounds a lot like we were just saying. So you have it right here if you'd like to do one. So you don't have to come and see a no-good lawyer. Are there any good ones? No, and you can go and you can just have this signed. And again, it does talk about you can have witnesses. You're fine if you do that. I like to have notary just because it's a little bit more official. And because sometimes when people use witnesses, they say, Dad, can you come over and witness this? It's like, I don't like to have family members, just anybody but that, and then you don't really want other people in your business. So then with a notary, you just say, just show that I signed it. That's all a notary is there for, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be a family member, as mentioned. It can be a friend who's making a decision for you. Sometimes people don't have somebody that can make a decision for them right at their disposal. Could be a neighbor, okay? Can't be a lawyer, you know, can't be a banker, shouldn't be a pastor. It's just got to be somebody that you might trust. Right, the question was, whenever you're getting a witness on something, you always get a non-family member or a non-relation. And sometimes better not to even have a friend, but sometimes, yeah, that's all you can have, and that's okay. But for a notary, sometimes, you know, you're asked to notarize your own family stuff, and it's best to have somebody else do it. If, you know, I'm a notary is why I bring that up. Now, as brought up before, this is not a do not resuscitate order, okay? So when you go and you get your living will, power of attorney for health care done, whether it be at a law office or you do it yourself, a couple things. One, once it's signed, you need to get a copy to your doctor ASAP. Well, I don't have a doctor. Wherever you go when you're sick, okay? So, or where, you know, and I'm speaking to the males in the room and never go to the doctor. No, but the whole thing is, people say a lot of times, I don't go to the doctor. It's like, wherever you go for your medication refills, et cetera, just get a copy to them. They don't need the original, they just need a copy. Why? Now, on the form, I designate who? John Doe, okay? Well, where at? You need their address to put down. Don't just put the city and state and think it's good enough. Get the phone numbers in there. Because if I'm passed out on the side of the road and they need to know who to call or who to contact, they don't just go Garner, Iowa. Like, oh, okay, Garner, Iowa. Like, yes, where in Garner? You know, but even then, phone number. You're not going to send it via Pony Express. You know, let's get some more detail. In other words, if the form is asking for information, fill it in. Okay, it might take a little bit. You might have to text somebody, call somebody, somehow get their information, but you got to get that in there. So you get a copy to your doctor's office, so now the doctor's office puts it in the registry, and then they know who to call if something happens, and the ambulance knows this, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you go to renew your driver's license, do you have an advance directive? If the answer is yes, if you've done the form that we were just talking about. If you've had one already, Now, if you just have yours and it's still sitting at home, you better look at it. Does it have phone numbers in it? Has it been updated? Is it those kind of things? But now, if you go to the driver's license station, why do they ask that? Well, because if you get in a car accident, they're going to pull your license, and then they're going to see, is there an advance directive, and they're going to know to go back to the ambulance and then check, okay? They're supposed to anyway, but then you know. Now, I get this question a lot. We just talked about that living will. If I should have an incurable, irreversible condition, it's my desire that I not be kept alive, etc. However, that's not a do not resuscitate. A do not resuscitate, what's the difference? Well, a healthcare directive, a living will, can be signed by you. And do not resuscitate, DNR, can only be signed by a doctor in the state of Iowa. So you can't do your own. You can do it, but it's not effective as an order until the doctor signs it. So if you want to do not resuscitate, next time that you have the audience of your doctor, get it done then. Okay? Because the doctor needs to be able to explain what this really means. Okay, what the ramifications are this are. And so the do not resuscitate is something that then is sometimes confused with a living will, because sometimes the words are the same. Sometimes the concepts are the same. But again, a DNR order, do not resuscitate order, is prepared by the doctor. And it tells them tells healthcare providers not to try to revive you, okay? And so you have to make sure that you go through and do that, and then they give you something called that order, the do not resuscitate order, that you can put on your refrigerator, or you can have an alert system in place. So a lot of times they'll have it on the refrigerator or next to them. People will have them next to them wherever they're at. But that's not, if you want one, you got to go to the doctor and get that done. Okay? Now, with respect to, people in the room here, if I ask you to raise your hand, which again I'm not, and say, do you have your power of attorney, I'm just going to call it power of attorney medical done with the living will, okay? And people say, oh, this is for people that are getting older. If you have kids, adult children, if you have grandkids who are adults, better get them done. I had a mom who, from Mason City, I'm gonna guess her at 40, her daughter going to Iowa, University of Iowa. Of course, no kid that has their powers of attorney done. And the child got assaulted down at Iowa City, and mom rushed down to Iowa City as fast as she could, and got to the hospital and ran into the hospital and said, I need to see my daughter. Who are you? Got to get them done. Now, why do people not get their powers of attorney done? Why is that? One of the questions that we as lawyers and practitioners, we address and we readdress and we hit our head against a wall, because we believe that people don't like to think about it, for one thing. We think that people like to procrastinate, is another thing. We think that people are worried about the cost, is another thing. And I'll tell you that the cost of powers of attorney in our office anyway are a couple $100, and we take payments if that's a problem. But that can't be the reason that you stop and not get them done. It can't be. Don't do that. Get them done. And tell your kids to get them done. We've had people give it as a Christmas gift, as an additional Christmas gift, not the only one. But when my kids, since I'm a lawyer, when my kids turned 18, they all got them done. I said, you name whoever you want to. I highly suggest you name me because I'm in the business of it. And I give you all the money anyway, so I should know, I kind of know where it's going. But anyway, they got them all done. And I've had to use it before. And just the other day, I had to go to pick up my son's prescription at the pharmacy. Well, he's over 18, power of attorney. Didn't have to use it. It's a local town here, so we get a little bit, but I had it. I knew I was okay. And my daughter, who travels overseas, I, of course, needed to get hers done before she left, and I had to use that 3 or 4 times when she was gone. So that's on that. Now, we talked about medical. This is Cerro Gordo County Department of Public Health. But as a requirement, when somebody comes in to get that done, we have to get their financial power of attorney done, because it's the same issue. Now you're disabled, can't make a decision. Who can make decisions for you on the medical side? Who can make decisions for you on the financial side? Same thing, only who's going to pay your rent, mortgage, who's going to be able to get into your bank account and fix things, who's going to be able to pay bills, who's going to be able to help you with whatever's going on the financial side. And again, this isn't for just people that are in advanced age, which my kids tell me I am now. So the issue is you got to get these done anytime. And our kids or grandkids need to get them done as well, but specifically for us. Why? Well, one thing is, what if I have to go to the nursing home? How is my wife going to be able to get our asset information in one place, get it all, and try to figure out who's going to do what assets do we get to move into different ways according to the rules, so that we can get some sort of assistance from the nursing home to get us into a place where we need to be. Power of attorney. We have it a lot where if we need to move the properties between spouses, you have to have a specific provision in your power of attorney financial. If I code out, my wife has no idea about my retirement accounts, she needs to be able to get into that. If we have some sort of an issue with respect to bank accounts that are in one person's name only, she needs to be able to get into that. And if it's not my wife, it could be one of my kids or all my kids. So we don't have to just pick one. We can have more than one. So that's 100% a requirement in my mind to have done, is that general power of attorney. And I gave you a form on that. Now you might have one already, and if you do, same idea. It needs to be a newer one. It needs to be one that's updated. We're not talking about breaking the bank if we do this, but it is something that we really believe needs to be done. Because, by the way, it's not just if you are medically unable to make a decision. What if you don't want to make a decision? What if you can't make a decision? What if you can't access something? So what if I go fishing in Canada? What if I'm up there and I lose my wallet? How am I going to get money wired to me, especially if my wife's with me up there? Power of attorney financial, general power of attorney, they can go to the bank for me and wire me some money. Okay, what if I don't have my medication? Power of attorney medical, they could go to the store, get mine, get it somehow express sent to me, etc. So you got to get those done. Again, those are really important. So that's a little bit about the financial power of attorney. I don't have that form available for filling out at home. There might be one online. If somebody calls me or emails me, we can always talk about that. We talked about why it's so important to have that documentation, because if you don't, you're just leaving it up in the air for somebody else to make those decisions for you. Now, I had one other thing that we always talk about, and Mindy, can I get your help real quick? Did you just give this? I think we have 11 people here, each person one of these. Sort of had a late addition to to the packet here. I don't know how many are in there, but there should be enough. Yeah. Now, we were talking about having a conversation, but sometimes those conversations are difficult. And having difficult conversations, not my favorite thing to do, and when do you do them? So I bring up the issue of statement of last wishes. And I've never seen another attorney with this form. I created it. So if you can't sleep tonight, bring this out, and you might nod right off because I'm the one that did it. But anyway, this form is something that I developed with the idea that if something happens, what is my final wishes when it comes to, and we look at the form, cremation or casketed? If cremation, where do I want my cremains buried, interred, or scattered? Ashes spread. Where do I want my cremains or body buried? Where do I want my funeral memorial service, i.e., or e.g., funeral home or a church? Examples. Do I have a funeral home preference? Do I want a traditional or contemporary service? And what song, speakers, thoughts, etc. on service? Now, I go on to say this is not legally binding, but however, question, if you fill this out and you give it to the person who's going to make your decisions for you, do you really think they're not going to honor that? Now, I call this the 3-minute rule form, 3 minutes. It's if you were going to get hit by a bus today kind of thing. Because I get people come in, I haven't thought about it yet, I just haven't thought about it. I said, well, what do you want to do? I don't know, I just can't think. I said, we're going to keep pushing, make you feel a little uncomfortable. What if you got hit by a bus today? Well, I guess I'd want to be cremated then. Okay, so let's have you think about circling that or writing it in there, okay? And let's keep pushing a little bit. And then you kind of push it through. So I used my mom as the guinea pig of this form, and I used a funeral director from Mason City as the person to help me make sure I had my terminology right. And Mom filled it out, and so this is the conversation. Mom filled it out, and then I took it to Mom. I took it from Mom, and I took it to my siblings. And I said, this is what Mom wants, sister. Is this what you, do you have any questions for this? No. Went to my brother, do you have any questions for this? No. Went to my other sister, do you have any questions? No. So I have this in her file. So if something happens. Now, when do you have your family together? Holidays, Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and you picture it, it's nice, you got the stuff on the stove and it's nice smells, and then you kind of gather your kids around and say, geez, if I die, no.
Like that game, Death and Dinner.
Right, no. So it's like, I don't really want to bring it up, I'll just bring it up next time, and there is never a next time. So that's why you fill out the form, 3 minutes. I challenge you, if you think them through, it takes 3 minutes of, you notice lawyers are kind of windy, as you know. And our general power of attorney is 6 pages long. Our statement of last wishes, the one I did, is 1 page, and it takes 3 minutes. But how valuable is that 3 minutes? And then what you can do is, we have that great copy machine. We can make copies and give them to our kids. So now there's no fight of what Mom wanted. There's no fight of what Dad wanted. This is the wishes. Conversation is done. And who can institute your wishes are back to that power of attorney, medical, that you have, mine, and you have the blank one. It's whoever you put in as the disposition of your remains. They're the person that gets to make that decision if there's a fight, okay? So you want to put in somebody, and in mine, of course, I have alternative language, etc. Now, I've given you the form. So again, you can use that free, no problem. A lawyer never needs to see it. You could sign it. And I'm a texter because my kids are. So then I can go like this, take a picture of it, snap it, and then send it to my 3 kids. Oh, Dad, why you bring that up? Because we got to bring it up. Because then when it's brought up, it's done, and we can go back to doing our thing. And so that's why I think that's important. Now, on the backside of that statement of last wishes, because I, at the last minute, panicked because I hadn't given anybody my email address, I wanted people to have my email address, my office address, so that if you have questions, you can always ask me those things. And, you know, sort of, that is the idea of getting your wishes in. What we were talking about is a collective in writing somehow, or in a way that you can get it out so that you can pass those along to those people. And when in doubt, get it out to as many people as you can, as far as your family, or those that would be making those decisions. And many times who you name as your power of attorney, medical or financial. Some people say, well, my one child is better at medical. She's a nurse, you know, but my other daughter works at a CPA firm, so I'm going to have one as a medical, one as a that's fine too. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. Or you can have them both, because some people don't like choosing one over the other. And so there's no right or wrong way, but the wrong way is to not do anything. Now, a lot of times, whoever is your financial power of attorney is going to be your executor if something happens to you in your will. Well, what's the difference? Again, power of attorney ends right upon your demise, okay? Medical and financial. So if you have a bank account and it's your name only, and you had somebody, it's like, well, I had them on as a signer. That ends right upon your demise. Well, I had them as my power of attorney. That ends upon your demise. So again, if you ever have questions and you ever need to come see me, we can always talk about those things so we feel comfortable that our wishes are going to be honored, okay? But that being said, if you don't have a will, you got to get a will done, okay? A will just says, if something happens to me, here's my heir, who's going to get my property if something happens to me. And that's only property in your name only. So if you already have a beneficiary set up on that account, then that's not going to go under your will. So if I leave everything to my 3 kids, but I leave only one of them as my beneficiary on my biggest bank account or investment account, she's going to get the money. It goes in by beneficiary before your will. So you have to make sure those match up. If you don't have those matching up, you need to come see somebody, okay? And so that's very